I can't tell you how much of an honor it was for me to be asked by the Pearl family to do this. And I want to say to them how many people said to me when they heard or read that I was coming, things that made it plain how they regarded the loss of your son as personal. Whether they were Jewish or not, whether they were Americans or not, whether they were interested in the First Amendment or whether they were journalists or not, there was something about the manner of his passing that will always remain with us. If I lived in an uncivilized society, today could have been for me a kind of martyr's day. At the scattering of Mark's ashes on a beautiful coastal spot in Oregon, I quoted from the last scene of Macbeth, and I think I can do it again. I had difficulty doing it that time, where, as you'll recall, the tyrant is gone, the tyranny and the usurpation is over, but old Seward doesn't know it yet, but he's lost his son in this struggle. And I believe it's Macduff who has to say to him the following, and I'll address it to the Pearls, if I may. Your son, my lord, has paid a soldier's debt. He only lived until he was a man, the which no sooner had his prowess confirmed in the unshrinking station where he stood, but like a man he died. And that's hard enough to get through, believe me, but it's Shakespeare, so it isn't for the next beat or so that you get it all. As Macduff adds, your cause of grief must not be measured by his worth, for then it hath no end. That's the best tribute I can offer you, and I'm very acutely aware of my own debt to a finer register of emotion. Now, one more thing. This campus is where my in-laws met in the 40s, one from Odessa, one from Galicia, and married. As you heard, I was late in discovering some occluded parts of my heritage, and I once wrote that anyone who wanted to defame the Jewish people would, if they were doing so, be defaming my wife, my mother and father-in-law, and my daughter, so that I felt I didn't really have to say anything for myself. But I did add that in whatever tone of voice the question was put to me, whether it was friendly or hostile, was I Jewish, I would always answer yes. The denial in my family would end with me. But of course there was the most acute possible test of that question, faced by young Daniel Pearl in the most appalling circumstances. And again I pause to remember how proudly and how bravely and how nobly he refused any sort of refuge and denial. Again, setting a standard of a Shakespearean kind that's very hard for me to approach without feeling a want of proportion. And I'll close by saying this. Because anti-Semitism is the godfather of racism and the gateway to tyranny and fascism and war, it is to be regarded not as the enemy of the Jewish people alone, but as the common enemy of humanity and of civilization, and has to be fought against very tenaciously for that reason, most especially in its current, most virulent form of Islamic jihad. Daniel Pearl's revolting murderer was educated at the London School of Economics. Our Christmas bomber over Detroit was from a neighboring London college, the chair of the Islamic Student Society. Many pogroms against Jewish people are being reported from all over Europe today as I'm talking. And we can only expect this to get worse, and we must make sure our own defenses are not neglected. Our task is to call this filthy thing, this plague, this pest, by its right name, to make unceasing resistance to it, knowing all the time that it's probably ultimately ineradicable, and bearing in mind that its hatred towards us is a compliment, and resolving, some of the time at any rate, to do a bit more to deserve it. Thank you.